Hey, Nicholas, how's it going?
Hey, I'm very good, thank you. What about you?
Oh, we're good, thanks. I'm Chris Cato. I'm joined by my co-host here, also Tyler McDonald. We really appreciate you doing this with us.
No problem, my pleasure.
So, how have things been going? Obviously, you announced at the end of December there that you're a new driver for Williams and entering F1 in your first season. So, we just wanted to know, basically from when you started racing in your karting days through F2 all the way now to F1, what's the experience been like coming all the way now to Formula One?
Yeah, it's definitely been quite the journey. Journey kind of taken about 12 years, so better part of half of my life. So, a lot of memories, a lot of experiences, very difficult moments, lows, highs. In motorsport, there's always many more lows than highs. That's just how it goes. But it's kind of the highs that keep you going, that keep you fighting. From when I started karting in those first years, initially I hadn't ever thought to make racing a career. It was something more just a hobby for fun. I was doing it at a high level for North American standards, let's say, but nothing compared to like what it is doing proper European racing championships over here. But then when I kind of got to the age where I decided that I really want to pursue this as a career, to make the transition to cars, then kind of going through each of those years as well, kind of step by step progressing through the ranks, seeing that I was kind of getting closer and closer. Kind of obviously culminating in last year where I had my most successful season to date in junior categories, and in Formula 2 finishing as the vice champion Sophie 2. Kind of proving to a lot of people that, and to myself first and foremost, that I was capable. I did deserve to get the shot. So it was something I would have never imagined all those years ago, and to have it, let's say, happen now, and let's say the first race very, very quickly approaching, is a very cool feeling, very surreal feeling, I'm just really excited to, like I say, get down to work, because I'm already gotten down to the work, but just to continue kind of, just keep doing everything I can to achieve the goals I have.
To sign for any F1 team is, I'm sure, unbelievable for you, but to sign with such a historic team in Williams, what does that mean to you, to have that history behind you and have such a great program behind you as well?
Yeah, as you said, first and foremost, just to be in, it's something I'm extremely proud of, extremely privileged and fortunate to be a part of a elite club of only 20 drivers per year, let's say. But then to do it with a team like Williams that, it goes without saying, they have the history, the pedigree in the sport, one of the most successful teams all time in the sport as well. And, beyond that, they have, a history and proven track record of giving young drivers the opportunity to kind of flourish and develop themselves, and giving them opportunities of putting their kind of their foot in the door. So that, gives a lot of confidence and excitement to me to kind of make my step into the big leagues with them. And I'm just looking forward and hoping to repay them and their trust in me, and the faith they put in me to be their race driver this year.
And as you mentioned, obviously you had your best season in F2 last year, and it's always interesting for us when the junior drivers come into Formula One, and I think this is a great opportunity for our fans to also know, from a driving standpoint, what are some of the main differences between Formula 2 cars and Formula 1 cars? Because for the last couple of years, you've been in Formula 1 cars with FP1 and 2 sessions as well. So can you just sort of describe what are some of the main differences between the two cars?
Yep. So there's quite a lot of big differences. So first and foremost is much more power in the Formula 1 cars, which goes without saying, which is quite nice to feel when you put your right foot to the floor. The engines themselves, now Formula 2s are V6 turbos, so they kind of followed what Formula 1 is doing, but just minus the hybrid. So Formula 1 is also hybrid, so you have quite a lot of power from the actual engine itself, and then you have quite a lot of power from the electronic, let's say, battery side of things. So the torque you feel when you instantly put your foot on the gas, and the power is quite a lot. But for me, the biggest thing as a driver is just the overall grip you have. So because the tires are much bigger than you have in Formula 2, it just provides much more mechanical grip. the aerodynamics as well. There's for sure much more investment and technology advancement in the aerodynamics of the car. So this just allows you to brake so much later, so that the braking is insane. I mean, for the most part, whenever first time you drive a Formula One car, you get on the brakes for a corner and you have to reaccelerate to actually get to the corner because you arrive so much, you decelerate so much quicker than you think.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just you brake so much later, carry so much more minimum speed. You're able to get on the gas, the throttle so much harder. So everything is kind of happening much more quicker on top of all the, let's say, other things you have to deal with, like the extra electronics on the steering wheel, all the controls you have, making changes to the car and things like that.
How much do those differences change your fitness routine throughout the off season, or has it changed too much going from last season compared to this season?
I mean, for the most part, a lot of my training still remain fairly similar, for sure, with some little areas, let's say, more to fine tune. I mean, having, always driving back and forth between the Formula 2 and Formula 1 car, I know which areas I need to improve more for Formula 1, which areas I don't have to work on as much for Formula 1, if that makes sense. So, I mean, specifically, the neck is always the biggest thing with F1, just because of the increase in G-forces and the kind of, especially being a tall driver, that you're maybe sitting always a little bit more in a slightly more compromised position than a small driver. So like the whole kind of trunk and core area, lower back is a big one for very tall drivers, and just the core to kind of like resist the G's and to kind of combat those forces. Then at the same time, you don't have power steering in Formula 2, which you do in Formula 1. So let's say outright arm and shoulder strength doesn't need to be as much. And just in general, I'm trying to slid down ever so slightly, just to try and be more within the Formula 1 weight. I mean, I already am below the Formula 1 weight, but just to have a little bit more margin, as it's always better to put a bit of ballast on the car to meet the weight, as opposed to just having the weight in the driver.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we saw a recent picture of you on Twitter, so looking good, looking fit. You seem ready to go for the season, so that's good. Now, as a new driver entering into F1, a lot of our fans, especially over here in Canada, us being a Canadian podcast, a lot of people have been asking us about you. So what should the fans know about Nicholas Latifi? I mean, what are your interests outside of F1, favorite sports, musicians? What are some of your interests outside of F1, and what should fans know about Nicholas Latifi?
So first and foremost, they should know that I'm very proud to be from and represent Canada on the world stage. So, I mean, outside the track, outside of racing activities, I was always a very active kid and still am. I mean, sports-wise, basketball is for sure my favorite sport besides racing. Played a lot in school at a low level, albeit before I actually started karting. Huge Raptors fan because of that. Whenever I'm home, I always try and get to the games, which I'm sure anyone who follows me on social media can see that it's not as often as I would like to, but whenever I'm home, I always try and fit in the game if the season's still running. In terms of music, my tastes vary depending on the mood I'm in. I mean, I do love hip hop and rap. A huge Drake fan, also from the Six.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of when I'm working out, I always like something a bit more upbeat, so more like house, dance, EDM music, just to kind of get the blood flowing a bit more. But I mean, aside from those kind of things, I mean, in my free time, which we don't really get a lot of in this job because everything is so busy. Aside from the actual, let's say, on track driving things, the travel, the media, the training, the days at the factory. And so when I do have a day off, I mean, first and foremost, I just like to just relax and like kind of just chill out, like I'm sure any individual would like to do, whether that's just like watching a bunch of Netflix, just hanging out with friends, going to movies, just chilling with family. It's all kind of normal stuff, to be honest. Nothing crazy exciting. Just a normal guy.
You mentioned about the 6, and of course you chose number 6 as your number this year in F1. For the Canadians not listening to our podcast and don't understand the reference, can you just explain why you chose number 6?
So yeah, basically I chose number 6 because I'm from Toronto. So I was born originally in Montreal, but I've lived in Toronto my whole life. So Toronto is often referred to as the 6. It's basically popularized by the rapper Drake, who I'm sure anyone worldwide will know who that is. There's a few reasons why it's been called the Six. The most well-known one to me was because of the telephone area code. So if you're in the Toronto area, your phone number, you either have 416 or 647. So he just focused on the six, let's say. And also, Toronto was, I think, once divided into 6 boroughs. So as well, that's kind of why that stuck as well. So yeah, he popularized it in some of his songs, and one of his albums as well was even called Views from the Six. And again, proud to be from Toronto, proud to represent the Six. It also happens 3 out of my 4 years in F2 GP2, I was using number 6 as well.
Oh,
That's awesome. Yeah, it's funny because we're out here in Ottawa and our area code is 613, but for whatever reason, just never caught on with people out here in Ottawa.
Yeah. So
there
is no Drake in Ottawa.
I'm sure if Drake was from Ottawa, you guys would have got that.
Yeah, exactly. Unfortunately, we're not that lucky. So. So looking ahead now to the 2020 season, like you mentioned, we're only a couple weeks away from testing and about a month or so from the first race. So what are your personal expectations going into this season?
So it's, I have some goals that I could kind of already set right now, and some goals that are going to be more difficult to set until we actually see where we are as a team, where the performance of the car is. Because for sure, I mean, when you think of, goals, you think of, okay, well, we want to be minimum trying to target this position, maybe some point scoring positions. But I mean, we have to see where we are going to be first before we could, set realistic and achievable goals. In terms of things aside from that, I mean, I know I'm going to be compared to my teammate, a very quick teammate in George Russell, very well-established guy, shows how quick he could be last year, highly rated junior driver. So I'm excited to learn from him, excited to go up against him, and ultimately benchmark myself from him. So I think pretty much all my performance will be compared to him because you're going to be in the same car as your teammate. So definitely want to be as close to him as possible, try and bridge the gap as close to him as quick as possible, because for sure at the beginning of the season we will have an advantage just having a full year of Formula One experience, which is something you cannot buy, you cannot replicate. You just have to experience. And so, I think those will be, let's say, the goal that I can set right now will be kind of in relation to just trying to be as close to him as possible, just trying to learn as much as I can, and never try not to make the same mistake more than once. And so will for sure be mistakes and things, a lot of things to learn from race by race.
With it being such a young driver lineup too in Formula One now, and so many promising young drivers coming up, you mentioned George. Just how's your partnership with him, and how have you guys been kind of working together, meshing along so far this preseason, getting ready for winter testing?
I mean, George and I get along very well. I've raced against him only once in my racing, only 1 year in my racing career, which was 2018, the year he won Formula 2. Then obviously last year being the reserve driver in the team, and George being the race driver, for sure, getting to spend a little bit more time with him on the track, and also sometimes like back at the factory, bumping into one another. But we get along very well. We have a very good, I think we're going to have a very good working relationship, which is very important for the team. But beyond that, I think we have a good personal relationship as well, which I think will also add something to the team, again, especially the position we are in, for the morale, to kind of motivate everyone. We both know our roles, how important it is to race and drive for the team, not for ourselves, which is, let's say, a bit different in the junior categories where ultimately you want to do a good job for your team as well, but it is more. There's no the team championship isn't as important in junior categories as it is in Formula One, although it's not to say that there is no importance on it. But so I think we do get along well, which will be good. This year we've bumped into each other a few times at the factory. To be honest, as well, I know we've both been quite busy. We've both gone on our own separate training camps, kind of doing our own separate preparations as well. But for sure, once things kick off, I know we're going to have a good collaboration and camaraderie on track to push the team forward.
That's great to hear. Nicholas, one of the last things from me, just talking about the Canadian content in Formula One at the moment. I was just looking last night, and you're the 15th Canadian Formula One driver. And for us, we were so long that we didn't have a Canadian driver in Formula One, and now we have two. And also so much Canadian investment in Formula One with Lawrence Stroll and obviously your great Canadian sponsors that came along too. So do you get the sense that Formula One is starting to really grow here in Canada? And what's it like flying the flag for Canada on such a big global stage like Formula One?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something great for the sport to have now two Canadians full time on the grid. As you said, that there was quite a big gap where there wasn't any on the grid. Then Lance came in a few years ago, and now me. So it's I think Formula One has always been very popular in Canada. I mean, from my young years going to watch the Montreal Grand Prix, it was always at the time it was the only Grand Prix I had been to, so it was just a big sporting event to me. But now having experienced so many of the other Grand Prix, I mean, I can safely say it is one of the best ones on the calendar from an atmosphere point, fan base point, and just like a whole weekend. And I don't say that because I'm Canadian. Although many people will think that is a biased statement, but you can ask a lot of team members, a lot of drivers, they will say that is one of their favorite Grand Prix to attend. It's definitely growing, and I think having two Canadian drivers now is only going to help that and continue to go in that direction, which is great. Me personally, just representing Canada, it's something I take a huge amount of pride in. I mean, even in Formula 2, because Formula 2 is still an international competition where you're competing on the world stage, and just already in that representing my country and where I'm from was already amazing. And now to do it in Formula 1, it's just a whole other big step up. It's obviously Montreal Grand Prix is something I can't wait for. Kind of goes without saying.
Two quick last ones from me, Nicholas. And first off, just you mentioned being a young Canadian going to the Grand Prix in Montreal, but who did you look up to when you were a young kid watching F1 and seeing these amazing race drivers? Who was your idol going up and really inspired you to become an F1 and a race driver?
I mean, to be honest, all those early years when I would go to the Grand Prix as a kid, so let's say before I actually started racing. So I think I don't remember when the first Grand Prix I went to, but I think I would have gone to one probably at least when I was 8 or 9 years old, around that. So I had no intention of even starting racing, considering racing at that point. So to be honest, growing up, I never had a racing idol, someone who kind of inspired me to get into racing. I mean, at that time, I think my family was always a big Schumacher fan. Again, not from a racing family, but my dad at least always liked Ferrari, liked Schumacher. So that was kind of around that time he was still racing. But then once I actually got into racing and started following all the races much more in the championship, much more closely, the drivers who I kind of looked up to and wanted to try and emulate certain things from were for sure Schumacher, Michael Schumacher, Lewis Hamilton, and Fernando Alonso. But I would not say that I idolized one of them. I would just say there was certain things that I really wanted to try and emulate from each of them.
Oh, no, that's very interesting. And just from maybe a fan perspective and a driver perspective as well, racing on the F2 grid, obviously a lot shorter season. Is there any Grand Prix or any racetrack that you're looking to this year that you haven't been able to race at before, that you just can't wait to get to and race that track in an F1 car?
So in terms of a track that I've never driven at, because the obvious answer I would say is Montreal, but I have driven there in the FP1 sessions. So I mean, this is for sure the track I'm most looking forward to going to race at. Right. But one that I've never driven at, and that I've never actually even attended the Grand Prix in general, is probably Singapore. Everyone says that is one of the best Grand Prix on the calendar from an atmosphere event point of view, but also, I mean, from the more driver specific, I mean, it's a street track. I love street tracks. It looks like probably one of the most difficult street tracks there is. It's a night race. I love night races. So that one I'm quite looking forward to. And the track, I would say the only other track would be Suzuka, because this one, everyone says, is a proper driver's track, not a lot of margin for error, which again is something that kind of adds an extra thrill to it while you're driving. So and it looks like a fantastic track, a very nice flow to it, and to drive these current generation Formula One cars that make so much grip, so much downforce, they're so fast, go flying through so many of the high speed corners there. It seems like it'll be quite a lot of fun.
I could only imagine going through 130R at full speed, and you get to feel that. So I mean, that's unbelievable to have that experience and to be able to go flat out through that corner. So it's a lot of people's dreams. So I'm sure for you, it's going to be an unreal experience going there.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe I'm gonna pull the crook and go one-handed through it too.
We'll definitely be watching then. Well, Nicholas, look, we really appreciate your time. I know you're incredibly busy, especially at this time of year. We just wanted to let you know we're going to be cheering you on all the way from here in Ottawa, and I know a lot of Canadians are behind you this season, so we can't wait to watch you. So best of luck to you and the team, and we hope you guys do really well this season.
Thanks very much, guys. Really appreciate it.
Hope to talk to you soon, Nicholas. Maybe see you in Montreal.
Great. Thank you, guys. Take care.
Thanks. You. Take care.
So Nicholas Latifi there, Chris. Wow, like you could only we expected so much coming to this. Nicholas Latifi, obviously being Canadian, and obviously wanting him to do so well on the grid this year with Williams. Phenomenal interview, and a lot of things that he said there that maybe you don't realize as a fan going to the race every weekend, but. Just I found a few things very interesting from him, and I think maybe the funniest thing I took out of the interview is him wanting to go through 130R one-handed, which is pretty impressive to see. But what a phenomenal interview! I hope you all enjoyed that because I know we sure did, recording it and talking to Nicholas. So unbelievable.
Yeah, I always wanted to ask an F1 driver the question about the technicalities of the car. And we didn't get, obviously we only had a certain amount of time, so I would have loved to ask some more questions. But just getting a little bit of that technical insight about the braking, the acceleration, and certain things about the F2 cars that we didn't really know, because sometimes the information is hard to find, but to get it directly from a driver was really interesting. And yeah, just a terrific interview. I think he's a sponsor's dream, and that's why he has so many as well. A very, very good head on his shoulders. And I just wanted to say we really appreciate Williams Racing and Nicholas Latifi for their time. We're just a little podcast out here in Ottawa, Canada, and for them to just take a time. I know his press officer mentioned he was doing some Netflix interviews before coming on with us. So for them to give 20 minutes to us was a tremendous honor, and we really thank them for that.
Yeah, no, we really do. It means a lot to us, and I'm sure all of our fans will enjoy it, the interview as well. And hopefully this isn't the last of things. Hopefully we can talk to Nicholas in the future as well in a follow-up interview, and hopefully if all things work out well, we can have some current and former drivers on the podcast as well, and experts. Hopefully the way things are lining up, we're going to try and do our best for you guys out there and get some amazing content and interviews for you.
Absolutely. Any Raptors fan is always welcome on the show.
That's very true. Even though we're not from the 613, but I guess, we still represent the Canadian flag. So nice to have a former a Canadian on the podcast to join us, and we'll be cheering him and Lance Stroll on this season from our Canadian roots as well.
Absolutely. And that does it for us today, guys. That was our first unofficial podcast. I say unofficial because obviously we're in a different area and we're not with all three of us. So and we're going to be coming with the preseason testing podcast in a couple of weeks.
Yep. It's right around the corner. It's crazy.
It's
car
crazy.
Launches are in
Next
week
week?
and a half, 2 weeks.
Yep.
So we'll be obviously reviewing all the new liveries, some breakdowns, and try to get some analysis on what we can see from the car. And there's always speculation from what have they added to the car this year.
Yeah.
In those kind of the photos get released that have a lot of photoshops and stuff, so you can't really see too much of the car. And then we'll really get a good sense at winter testing, which will be coming up in a few short weeks. So it's F1 season's ramping right back up.
Yeah.
I'll mention this now too. If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube and search the Zandvoort track resurfacing. There's I can't get his name right now as off the top of my head, but anyways, there is someone filming the renovation. Very cool if you're a track geek like me. You can see the renovation happening, all the construction. So I would recommend going checking that out as they get prepared for their first F1 race in a long, long time.
Sounds great. And in the meantime, like I said, follow us on our website, TBMF1Show.com. We'll be posting articles as well as this interview, the audio version, and a lot more. So if you don't see a video from us on YouTube, check out the website because we'll be posting content on there in the meantime. And also on Twitter as well, at TBMF1Show. Follow us there for all of our latest updates. And you'll find us there.
Yeah, and all of our preseason, when our preseason show comes out, we'll give you guys a rundown on our plan for this season, our in-depth plan for this season, and what you guys can look forward to with all of the content.
Yeah.
All the content that'll be coming up. So it's a very exciting year for us, and hope you guys are going to join us for the ride.
Pretty good start to this season, though.
Yes. Very good.
We hope you
Perfect
enjoyed
start.
our interview with Nicholas Latifi. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you soon, guys. Take care.